and welcome to the extended essay celebration of the class of 2019. Over the past 12 months, grade 12 students have been on a journey of independent academic research and intellectual curiosity on a chosen IB subject. We have developed our creative and critical thinking skills, and tonight we will share our learning and achievements with you.
And of course, we weren't the only ones on this journey. I would like to take this opportunity to thank our extended essay supervisors and our teachers for supporting us so much through this process. Now, some of our classmates will be presenting their research papers to you on this stage, and after that, all grade 12 students will be showcasing their extended essays in the Black Box Theater right next door.
Picture the scene. It's 2016, and you're going home from hanging out with a group of friends at the Vincom Center. As you walk out to the front, there are at least 10 Venison taxis parked at the gate. Instead of getting in one of those Venison taxis, you decided to call an Uber and wait another 5 minutes. If this is relatable to you, it's no surprise. The majority of the Vietnamese population have shown their interest and has accelerated Uber's popularity locally. Although Uber had to withdraw back in 2018 due to financial challenges, Venison is still struggling to regain their position in the market. As a Vietnamese citizen, I feel as though I have the responsibility to help a local business like Venison compete against a multinational giant like Uber. There were many, hence, my extended essay research question: how can Venison recover from Uber's disruption of the taxi industry in Vietnam? There were many ways I could have approached this topic. However, I chose to question why my taxi preferences had changed. Why did I choose Uber over Venison? I asked these questions because if I wanted to strategize a recovery plan for Venison, I needed to understand what made Uber's disruption successful. In researching Uber's success, I needed to use countless secondary sources, such as research reports, financial reports, consulting reports, press releases, interviews, and the list goes on. Uber entered the market in the midst of the immense growth of the middle class and smartphone users. Hence, it is likely that you've been choosing Uber over Venison due to its phone application. From multiple sources, such as Nielsen Insight, it was found that the Vietnamese consumer preferences had changed to become more technologically oriented. Hence, it is recommended that Venison heavily promotes their phone application. On top of that, it was found from business articles and consulting reports that the taxi business had transformed from what it used to be a product-based business to what it is at present, a people-based business. Hence, Venison has to train their taxi drivers to have certain qualities such as friendliness, good etiquette, and confidence. With such suggested changes, Venison's recovery is probable. Class of 2020, I wish you all the best. Hopefully by now you've turned in your proposals. Try to use the experience as an opportunity to learn more about yourself. Good luck again, and thank you.
The research question for my extended essay is 대한민국 대통령의 사과문은 어떻게 상황과 목적에 따라서 다른 사과 전략을 취하는가? Or, well, in English, how do Korean presidential apology statements evoke an emotional response in their target audience. In 2016, the Vox Populi, or the general opinion of South Korean citizens, was that the President Park Geun-hye should be impeached. On March 12, 2017, the impeachment was finalized. Before she was impeached, she delivered 3 apology statements to the nation of South Korea in October and November 2016. Ironically, these statements were backfired against her and became the catalyst to her impeachment. I watched these events unfold in Korea and wondered, why did these statements receive so much criticism? And when I entered in grade 11, I decided to use this as my extended essay topic. After I did some research, I figured out that there were other presidents who also delivered a significant number of apology statements during their presidency. These presidents were Mr. Lee Myung-park and Mr. Moon Jae-in. For my extended essay, I investigated all of 3 presidents' apology statements. First, I identified the context in which each apology was made. Then, I analyzed the verbal strategies which they used in their apology statements and compared them. For my methodology, I conducted both a quantitative and qualitative data. I calculated the ratio of their uses of emotional expressions, rhetoric, semantic fields of denial, and semantic fields of accusations. After my extended essay, I was able to make a series of conclusions based on the similarities among my chosen statements. If the president is under more pressure, they tend to use more emotional expressions. And this reflects the Korean culture which highly values the emotional honesty. Also, all of the 3 apology statements use the semantic fields of denial. And this reflects the Korean culture of saving face. Through my extended essay journey, I figured out that one's cultural background and one's authority might influence one's way of speaking. I also learned that in long-term investigation, it is really important to build a strong communication with your supervisor. I hope I transfer this learning when I get into university. Thank you for listening.
To what extent can mathematical modeling of the prevalence of smoking predict mortality rates in the Vietnamese population? In 2016, the Global Health Organization has suggested that lung disease is ranked 4th in the top 10 causes of premature deaths in Vietnam. The American Lung Association also pointed out that 90% of lung cancer cases are connected with smoking. The Global Adult Tobacco Survey, conducted by the World Health Organization in 2015, reported that 40.7% of the Vietnamese population consume cigarettes and tobacco. As a Vietnamese citizen, this is a great concern to me. Being able to predict mortality rates could be effective to promote citizens' awareness of the impacts of smoking. Furthermore, these predictions can also be beneficial to improve tobacco control programs through governmental policies and campaigns. This sparks curiosity and inspiration from my essay to investigate the impacts of smoking on mortality rates. For my methodology, I looked at different models that can predict population changes through time. The first significant model that aligned with my aim was the SIR model. However, the trends suggested by the SIR model do not accurately reflect real life because the graph always strictly increases or decreases at a very fast rate. I found that the PSQ model is more applicable for the situation because it is specifically designed to model smoking. Finding specific equations to model the PSQ graph is more difficult. However, I managed to find piecewise functions that allow me to proceed with predicting mortality rates. My model of mortality predictions led me to the conclusion that there will be several fluctuations with the deaths by smokers per year. This is indicated through the purple line. The graph oscillates quite significantly during the first 1,000 months, but flattens out as time progresses. I estimated that after 2,500 months, which is equivalent to 208 years, there will be a constant rate of 0.07% of deaths caused by smoking per year. Although my findings only stop at theoretical predictions, I believe that they can hold a transformative impact to society if I had the chance to take this investigation further. I have come to a realization that what begins in school does not need to end in school. Thank you.
Two years ago, I had a chance to talk with a professor in the bioceramic department, University of Technology, Ho Chi Minh City. It sparked my interest in biomedical engineering and biomaterials specifically. Biomaterials are materials made from multiple compounds and can interact with the biological system. And biomaterials can be used in medicine. As you all know, spiders naturally make silk when they spin their webs. And the spider silk can be used as a substitute for surgical thread to close wounds after surgery. It can also be used as artificial ligaments and tendons. Microchips made from polymers can be created to mimic the physical microenvironment of living organs, such as the inhalation and exhalation of the lungs. Advancement of biomaterials over the past 30 years has brought the overall medical scene up to a new level. However, the cost of creating these biomaterials is extremely high and therefore cannot be used commonly in all hospitals. I wanted my extended essay to investigate ways to reduce the cost of creating and reproducing those biomaterials, especially a substance called hydroxyapatite. And since most of the audience here are likely to never have heard about it, I'll try to explain as simple as possible so that a 5-year-old child could understand. Basically, hydroxyapatite is a white powder which consists of two main components, calcium and phosphate. And these are also the two main components in our bones. And this similarity leads to its most significant application, to heal fractured bone and stimulating bone growth. This substance is amazing because it is far superior than traditional ways to heal fractured bone. In terms of the amount of time it takes to heal and the ability to heal. With hydroxyapatite, if you were to encounter a very serious injury, for example, a pelvis fracture, it will only take 2 to 3 weeks before you can comfortably walk again. Hydroxyapatite will act as a glue and stimulate the bone tissue to grow back and stick together faster. Amazing as it is, but the problem with using hydroxyapatite is, again, the high cost. Some people will say $1,000 or $2,000 per treatment. It's not that bad, right? But then, for a typical Vietnamese person with an average salary of only $300 per month, this is not affordable at all. Knowing this, I tried even more to find a way to reduce the cost of using hydroxyapatite. After researching about different methodologies, I finally chose to replicate hydrothermal method in my own experiments, mostly due to the low heat required and the ability to produce high purity substance. And for the source of calcium and phosphate, I initially experimented with eggshells, with organic compounds, such as eggshells and seashells, but neither of those worked. I then took a different approach and tried using pure calcium hydroxide and phosphoric acid. And of course, this is not the most optimal way, but then it is still cheaper than having to filter the calcium out eggshells and seashells. Compared to professional standards, my standard essay still needs a lot of improvement. My research hasn't changed the world. I haven't altered the medical scene in Vietnam. I haven't won a Nobel Prize yet. My extended essay has helped me to rethink the way I approach research investigation in my future life. The extended essay is also a great way to improve yourself, not only academically, but also as a human being. It has encouraged me to be more responsible, to take greater initiative, and to think more critically. Thank you for listening.
For my extended essay, I want to ask the question, how does visualization exercise affect the performance of an athlete executing a basketball free throw? Over the past few years, I've seen highly skilled NBA players constantly miss basketball free throws. Typically, a free throw in basketball is the easiest shot you can make because no defenders are defending it. However, some professional players in the NBA still tend to miss the basketball rim, which gives up the ball. Visualizing is a process of creating a mental image or the intention of what you want to feel or happen. Its main purpose is to manipulate a person to imagine positive outcomes. Visualizing also has been proven to stimulate the required muscles to perform on action and helps concentrate in sports. In 1992, Ann Isaac led an experiment with both novice and expert individual trampolinists, and divided them into experimental and control groups. The control groups only worked on physical practices of skills, while the control groups only worked on physical skills, while the experimental group worked on mental imagery exercises. In the end, both novice and expert individuals in the experimental group were able to see a huge difference in their skills. Most of them were able to increase their skills compared to the control groups. After reading past research and reading the history of visualization used in sports psychology, I decided to conduct my own research experiment which tested how visualization affects middle school participants. The visualization exercise included a script that was able to put middle schoolers into a mindfulness state where they imagined themselves shooting a basketball and making the free throw. This script was read to them through a 10-day period, and throughout the 10 days, each and every individual shot 15 free throws after a 3-minute guided visualization exercise. In the end, I was able to gain more appreciation for the cognitive aspect in sports. Overall, 8 out of 12 participants were able to increase their free throw average from 50% to 74%. Secondary research also is able to back up my primary data collection, indicating that a prolonged exercise of visualization is able to positively affect an individual's free throw accuracy. If I were to give any advice to future EE students, I would like to emphasize on time management. Use your time well during the summer break. Completing any experiments you hope to conduct will set you up for a well beginning in grade 12. Thank you.
Service animals, especially dogs, are well known for helping individuals with sight problems, PTSD, and anxiety. The first known dog introduced to psychotherapy was Dr. Sigmund Freud's dog, Jofi. He believed that having the dog in the room would allow the atmosphere to feel less serious, therefore allowing individuals to share more. Dr. Freud also believed that having Jofi in the room allowed children to feel less vulnerable. This led me to develop an interest in the relationship between dogs and children. While researching, I found that service animals played a particularly significant role in children with autism spectrum disorders. This led me to develop the question, does the use of professionally trained service animals contribute to the psychological aid of children with autism spectrum disorders? Autism spectrum disorders, or ASD, are disorders that prevent a child from creating normal relationships with their peers, as well as develop their fundamental capabilities. My essay was in the subject of psychology, which unfortunately prevents us from conducting any social experiments due to ethical implications. Therefore, my essay was primarily a literature review of case studies. Different psychological journals, such as the Frontiers in Neuroscience and the Journal of Applied Psychology, provided me with a great amount of knowledge. I did most of my research throughout the summer before I even began thinking about writing. My initial hypothesis was that service animals would be able to positively impact the social interactions of children with ASD. While researching, I synthesized multiple psychologist findings, and I can now suggest that service animals are able to positively impact and help individuals with ASD refine and adjust their social skills and emotions. They are also able to help individuals develop their fundamental capabilities to learn and interact with children of their age. Academically, I've learned the importance in the use of sources. There are thousands of sources about virtually any topic, therefore it is very easy to find a reliable source. In addition to that, I learned that 4,000 words was the easiest part of this process. It comes very naturally once you learn and understand your topic very well. Personally, I've learned that I enjoy learning and reading about psychology and have now changed my university degree as well as career path to something more psychology related. If you will allow it, the extended essay invites you to become an expert in any particular area. So to that, I say, good luck to the grade 11s as you begin your extended essay journey. Thank you.
Alcoholism is a taboo topic. From my research into the area of alcoholism, I have found that the greatest taboo surrounding alcoholism is the perception that alcoholics have a choice when dealing with this disease. When researching alcoholism, there are both biological and sociocultural explorations into its development. This led me to my research question, how far does the nature and nurture debate explore alcohol addiction? A key biological argument of researchers is that alcoholism is actually hereditary. Potenza in 2008 conducted several studies into family history and substance addiction, focusing directly on alcoholism. He closely observed and monitored a number of alcoholics and then did extensive research into their family history. He found a variety of addictive personality traits within these participants. These included being very impulsive with little regard to consequences, social alienation, and becoming excessively attached very quickly in relationships or obsessively attached to insignificant objects. Potenza found that a person's likelihood of becoming an alcoholic increases if a family member has been affected by addiction. Social cognitive theory explains a sociocultural argument on why some people are more likely to become alcoholics. Bandura, the originator of the social cognitive theory, claims that people learn by watching others. Bandura conducted a study on 3 to 6-year-olds in 1960, asking the question, can social behaviors, i.e. aggression, be acquired by observation and imitation? He found that children who observed the aggressive model gave more of an aggressive response than those who observed the non-aggressive and control groups. We might therefore hypothesize that if a child of an alcoholic grows up in an alcohol-dependent environment, watching his or her parents drink excessively, the child may perceive high levels of alcohol consumption as normal and mimic this behavior as they grow up. It is extremely difficult for a person to admit that they have any sort of addiction. I know this because my father is an alcoholic and has been for my entire life. Throughout my childhood, I always had questions. Why was he an alcoholic? Why can't he just stop drinking? And was I going to be an alcoholic? My extended essay gave me the opportunity to find answers to all my questions. Although I had a personal connection with this subject area, I did not want to use myself as a personal case study in this psychological investigation. However, the starting point of my research was to answer some of these questions I had. As I began my extended essay journey, I began by creating an action plan of timelines, deadlines, and expectations I should have of myself. I also made sure to set alarms, reminders, and alerts on my phone's calendar to make sure that I keep on track. Before the summer, I worked with my supervisor in order to break down my essay into 5 different categories: the introduction, the biological approach, sociocultural approach, the discussion, and conclusion. During the summer, I started my extended essay by researching. At the start of break, I set out 2 goals that I wanted to achieve by the end of summer. First was to finish researching, and second was to finish a rough draft. The greatest challenge I found during the research phase was reading the actual information, because 9 times out of 10, I could personally relate to what the writers were saying. I was always reading statements like, if you're a child of an alcoholic, you have an increased chance of becoming one yourself. Women are more at risk for abusing or becoming alcohol dependent than men. And children of alcoholics often have to deny their feelings of sadness, fear, and anger in order to survive. Despite this challenge, I continued to research and dig deeper into the topic. I now know that even though alcoholism is hereditary, if you put yourself into a healthy and safe environment, it can be prevented. Getting out of an alcohol-dependent environment can be the hardest yet best thing you do in your life. One thing I recommend for those starting the extended essay process is to choose something that you are passionate about. An extended essay worth doing should not be easy. With great challenge comes great reward, so be prepared to push yourselves. Thank you.
Many of you will be unfamiliar with the concept of a Rural Studies extended essay. Rural Studies is the investigation into 2 academic subjects that explore a global context through a local context. A Rural Studies extended essay requires you to use methodologies that are distinctive to the 2 discrete subjects. It also takes a guiding theme to direct the formation of a research question. For my Rural Studies extended essay, I chose the guiding theme, conflict, peace, and security, to examine Vietnam and Syrian migration issues through analyzing 2 artworks. My research question was, to what extent do artistic elements in Li Huangli's Boat Home Boat and Banksy's We're Not All in the Same Boat convey the global significance of migration issues? I combined geography and visual arts to examine Vietnam migration, which occurred post-1975 after the war. I also investigated into Syrian refugee crisis of forced migration that began from 2014 and unfortunately continues today. International migration law defines forced migration as a migratory movement that includes threats to life and livelihood. Forced migration has always created vulnerability. Vietnam being my local context, I have a strong personal connection to the tragic history, which motivated me to research about the global significance of migration issues. Li Huang Li. To obtain primary resources for geography, I conducted interviews with Mr. Mark Brown, head of Organization for Migration in Vietnam and Syria. He was significant because he was able to connect Syrian migration and Vietnam migration, which enhanced the reliability of my extended essay. To further support my discussions, I gathered reports published by the UN Refugee Agency. Li Huang Li is a Vietnamese sculptor who highlights the struggles and ruthlessness of refugees from her own experience as a migrant. Similarly, Banksy is an anonymous British street artist that engages with political themes and Syrian refugee crisis. Boat on Boat is an installation art that engages with the audience by delivering the stories of migrants. It was displayed at the Vietnam Fine Arts Museum in 2016. We're Not All in the Same Boat by Banksy is a piece of street art that was spray painted at France. Banksy used black to illustrate the tragic reality of humanitarian crisis that still continues today. Both artists used boat as a symbolism of hope and rescue. The title of the artworks emphasize this as they both use the diction, boat. Boat has created the visual imagery of the life-threatening movement of refugees. This further alarmed the seriousness of humanitarian crisis that still continues today. To further unpack the artist's intention, I conducted interviews with the artist Li Huang Li and visited the gallery to observe the artwork in real life. Through integrating visual arts and geography, I learned that artists potentially have the moral responsibility to use visual arts to reflect the society we live in. I also learned that forced migration from political and environmental push factors will still be inevitable in the future. Talking with Mr. Brown, I developed my perspective that various push factors will create the snowball effect, increasing the number of displaced persons. Writing my extended essay in rural studies has been challenging because I struggled to integrate methodologies across two subjects and use subject-specific language. For future students writing a rural studies extended essay, I advise you to fully research whether you have enough resources accessible for two discrete subjects. I also encourage you to have the confidence to reach out and make contact with any living authors or resources, such as the connections I made with Li Huang Li and Mr. Brown. Writing my extended essay has been the most challenging thing, yet I was motivated through my genuine engagement. I can confidently say that if you fully immerse yourself in writing your extended essay, you will find the experience extremely rewarding. Thank you.
I'm sure everyone in this theatre is feeling incredibly proud of you right now. Congratulations and thank you for giving such enlightening, thought-provoking, and honest accounts of your extended essay experience. Please join me in congratulating our student speakers one more time. Can I now invite the rest of grade 12 to join us on the stage? The students standing on this stage have just 3 months left of their school career. Tonight, we celebrate their incredible achievements at having completed the extended essay. This is no mean feat, as they have to get through 4,000 words of writing, which is far more than a typical student does in their first year of university. Please join with me in congratulating the resilience and the perseverance of the entire class of 2019.
Before we go to the black box, on behalf of the grade 12, we would like to say a big thank you to Ms. Veracliff for being there in our process.